How's it going, Andrew?
What's going on, Matt?
Not much. Started reading my third book since I got out of the East. Mr. Hiccup over there.
What book?
I just started Coyote America by Dan Flores.
How you been liking it? You learn anything?
Yeah. So I always thought like coyotes were interesting animals, right? And just the fact that they're everywhere.
Super adaptable.
Yeah, super adaptable. And, just kind of hang out everywhere. You can see them in the woods or in the middle of the city. It doesn't matter. And, I'm only like 30 or so pages in, but it's been fascinating so far to hear more of the like history and, the fact that they're only genetically removed from gray wolves by like 4%. And, some of the mythology he started talking about how like coyotes in like ancient mythology were almost like God's assistant.
The tricksters.
Yeah. Well, not only the tricksters, but like at one point he was talking about a ancient mythology where the coyote was like God was like, yeah, here, cool, this thing is creation, but I don't really want to get my hands dirty doing all the hands-on work. So like the coyote took over doing that part of it, and it was, so it's been fascinating.
And I haven't finished that book, but I read a good chunk of it many years ago. And what I enjoyed about it was how it is like a holistic approach to the coyotes, where it's talking about the cultural interpretations, the biological, the behavioral, all in like one book was kind of cool. And what I always get fascinated with coyotes is like they're truly like we can't extinct them. Like wolves and stuff have been driven out or removed from areas by human contact, but the coyotes not even through a lack of trying can't. They're too well designed, and the fact that when they get threatened too much, they can just scatter and reform new groups seamlessly is like they're too good.
Well, and just the idea that they can be both a pack animal or a solitary animal, and how fast they're spread out of like southwestern United States now was, and the fact that our passion to eradicate wolves may have actually helped the proliferation of the coyote because it removed something that was in their way from being like a dominant predator.
Yep. And then there's always the myths that we don't know if they're 100% true. There's a lot of going around about the coy wolves, biggest fear. Those are always fun, where everyone claims to see a coy wolf, but every coy wolf they found, they test, and it's just a coyote. It's just a big coyote.
Just a really big coyote. Yeah.
Yep. And they're saying like the fear is that if they start hybridizing, that you'll have fearless wolves because coyotes don't fear humans the same way wolves do.
Right.
And they don't come into wolves don't come into cities traditionally, but a coyote wouldn't,
Coyote's just like, whatever.
He's like, oh, good, garbage, I can eat that, or a cat. Like, whatever.
Right.
There was one time when I was in Bayview, and I walked outside to like get the mail or something, and I look up, and there's just a massive coyote just standing in the middle of the road staring at me, and I was like, oh. Yep. And they called it, God, what was it, the coyote chonkus or something? Like, it was like a little myth, like a myth figure in Bayview where everyone would see this big, fat coyote that would roam around the city. And I got to see it. It was just jogging along the road. And I was like, is that a dog? And then I'm looking, I'm like, that's not a dog. I'm like, is that a wolf? And I'm like, that's just a fat coyote.
Yeah. I'm super excited to finish the book and learn more. I mean, as a hunter, I think of the coyote as a fawn killer and detrimental to the deer population. So, I have mixed feelings about them, but I respect them. So I'm interested to learn more. I
mean, I have the stance where when it comes to like natural animals, like when a rabbit eats my stuff, I don't get mad and be like, goddamn rabbits. I go, well, there's something I like to do and they have something that they need to do. So I can't, be mad at the rabbit for surviving. I'll be like, well, damn it, you got me this time. I need to outsmart you, I guess.
I just don't want them to decimate the deer population on my hunting land.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's just, I think that's like the natural part of the gig, the hobby, is like you got to contend with nature, doing nature on your property too. Like, you're not farming deer, you know what I mean? So, like, there is going to be a balance between that.
You also have to do a little bit of predator control every now and then. So
Hey, I mean, the thing is that all the natural predators for coyotes have been removed. So, like the deer, they are basically get free reign. So it's like you want there to be coyotes for population control of deer, too, because they don't have very many predators these days.
Yeah, I'd rather have myself be the population control for the deer.
Yeah, I get that, but there's room for both. There's room for the coyotes. They're cool.
You just can't let too many of them start running around. That's all.
Yeah, I get that. Just the give and take. You push and pull.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, I suppose we should hit the music and get to our guest.
Yep, we have a very special guest today, so let's hit it.
Do.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
All right, we're back on here, and we have a very special guest today joining us. Brother, can you please introduce yourself for us?
All right, my name is Wesley Ruder. I am the host and I guess creator of the At Refreshment Masonic video podcast you can see on YouTube and other places.
The podcast known for the sickest memes in the West.
Love your guys' memes.
Yeah, in the West, because I'm the one that makes them. So, or is that what you said?
Yep. I said in the West, but by West.
Yeah,
Hey, there we go. I feel like I saved
pretty good.
I feel like I saved one of your memes the other day. I think that was yours.
You can always tell because they put their branding on it.
Right. It was that grand lecture one, I think. That was yours. Yeah. Yep, that was you guys. The Mo and Homer grand lecture. You missed the word and.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So
I mean, that's how it is.
It is. It is exactly how it is.
It's exactly how it is. I mean, oh my gosh. There used to be this brother, and we all love him to death, but Bob Fisher, he's been passed away for a number of years. And he would, every little word, every little pause you shouldn't have made. I'm like, whoa, wow. And wow, he was a nasty King Solomon too. So
that meme was quite timely because it came out like 2 days after I had heard that I made a word plural instead of singular when I was doing some work, and I saw that meme and I was just like, oh, this is perfect.
Yep. It's exactly how it is. You always know it better when you're not doing it.
Yep. Right. It's always easy to sit on the sidelines when you have no nerves and remember every word. So Wes, for our listeners, tell us a little bit more. What brought you into Freemasonry and what keeps you in Freemasonry?
Oh, those are two loaded questions. Gosh, the last one might kill me. Wow, let's see. Well, it was actually church. Believe it or not, I am still considered a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as Mormons, everybody's favorite, other Jehovah's Witnesses. So I learned about Freemasonry mostly through there, but the symbols and stuff, I remember seeing my friend's father had a KFC symbol on his car and on his windowsill. And I was a kid. I knew no better. I thought he worked for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And then, I noticed that there was other symbols too. And I don't know if he was a Freemason or just, whatever. But I noticed those symbols around. But when I joined the church years later, I learned about Freemasonry through that way because Joseph Smith was a Freemason who joined here in Illinois. When I say here, where I'm at in Illinois.
Right.
What keeps you in Freemasonry? That's supposed to be the hard question that you're afraid to ask or answer.
Yeah. What keeps me in Freemasonry? Well, definitely friendship. Friendships keep me going because right now I've been going through a difficult time in my life, and things have just been steering me away from Freemasonry, not purposely, not that I wanted to. It's just that things have been hard, but I'm still the secretary. I still go, so that keeps me in. Which is a good thing because there's nothing against Freemasonry. Not to be coy about it, but my middle brother just passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So I don't talk much about family, especially on the show or anything like that. All that stuff has always been separate, but that was something that just happened, and me having a disability and stuff, trying to work through that. Things have changed for the last year. So it's been a little hard trying to navigate or re-navigate my health. And then with the passing of my brother, it's been a little hard, but I've been getting back into it. So if it weren't for friendship and definitely, strong commitment, I probably would have just stopped going.
Do you think that having the regularity of your responsibility to the lodge has helped you kind of navigate some of these challenges that you've been going through and these hardships?
I would say so, because it's something to do, I guess, but what's going to happen. The aggravations. And now I'm thinking as a secretary, like, oh, woe is me. It's only been a year, and oh my gosh, it's really aged me. But the first year, if I didn't have my hardships, secretary wouldn't be that bad.
Sure. I mean, it's a hard job, too.
Yeah. So probably just because of that. And, the guys on the podcast, I mean, they're my closest friends. We don't see each other, every day. It's hard. We were just talking about that. Like our recording schedule, unfortunately, is going to go down to only recording on the 5th Sundays of the year.
And how many episodes are you banking on that Sunday?
Depending on how much we drink, hopefully 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there have been episodes where we've had to trash because we've drank too much.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Well, and that's one of the fun things about the At Refreshment podcast is how it is truly just a bunch of brothers having cocktails,
Refreshment.
having refreshments, and just talking about whatever's going on, talking about, lodge, talking about whatever. And so that's kind of the fun thing is that, I saw this meme a while ago where it's like me sitting on a podcast pretending I'm friends with people. And it's like a guy sitting next to like a picture of a bunch of people hanging out. And it's like, yeah, me too. I'm also hanging out with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Okay. When I came in, I didn't know anything about esoterics. I saw it in a completely different light, completely different. And like I said, let me first clarify something. I grew up Catholic, right? Then I joined the church. So, I'm crazy for so many different reasons. It didn't seem crazy at the time, but, let the listeners, judge for themselves.
Right.
Anyways,
right.
So I had these two backgrounds. And I wasn't always serious in religion, but when I did join the fraternity, I was pretty far deep into my religion. So when I started hearing about the esoteric stuff, this stuff sounds great. This is, cool. With the temple ceremony and then being with the 3 degrees and then going further with that. And I'm York Rite, Scottish Rite. I just really fell in love with it and deep into it.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, let's go.
So what lodge are you a member of, and how would you describe your lodge's culture?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like that one.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me. How do I describe it? I don't know. Okay, my home lodge is Azure LaGrange 770. My second lodge is Hinsdale 934. My third lodge is Raven Lodge 303, which is the one I am active in as secretary. Hinsdale, I don't go to too much because, there was at Refreshment was scheduled to record on Thursdays, and I just got taken away from that. Now, Azure, I'm still very active. So those are the 2 lodges I'm active in. Everything else I'm not active in. I had to take a step back because it was just getting to be too much. Everything I did in Freemasonry, and I told everybody, I'm like, nothing I do in the fraternity is less than 30 minutes away.
Yep.
Right. Well, and we both, I have a 3.5-year-old at home and he's got a 1-year-old, right? So yeah, we're both York Rite. Well, we're both York Rite. I'm Scottish Rite and Shrine as well. And I'm not active in anything except my Blue Lodge, So
yeah, believe me, sometimes I think about just doing that, but I pretty much am just active in Blue Lodge as it is.
Yeah, we were talking on our last episode about things that we wish we knew.
Oh yeah,
when joining,
I just heard it.
Yep, and when we were talking about that was one of the big ones. It's like you got to find your balance. You can't do everything. Like, and all these bodies are cool, and there's like cool things about them, but like truly, it'll just wear you out if you're just gone every day of the week, going to some Masonic function. You got to find balance.
Well, I used to be like that, and Marty overshadowed me a long time ago. Marty, I mean, he's every day he's just busy doing something. I don't know how he does it, but
yeah. Yeah, he always did seem like just full send.
Yeah, he's only got 2 speeds, fast and stop.
So the lodge that you're most active in, so we, on our podcast, we talk a lot about lodge culture. What do you like about your lodge's culture that you think makes it unique and that you enjoy about it specifically? Having you been a member of multiple lodges, seen a lot of lodges, everyone's a little different. What do you like about yours?
Oh, what do I like about all 3 of them? Or
you could pick. You could do all 3, or you could pick your favorite one. But don't tell them your favorite. But yeah, or one that has a good example that comes to mind would maybe be a nicer way to say it.
There you go.
Oh, everyone I know is pretty laid back, easygoing. I'm sure I'd be called an asshole by a couple people here and there with how I am, but excuse me,
that's the secretary's job.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to, tell any stories because it's neither, I'm neither right nor wrong, but it's just kind of, anyways. So the difference, other than Hinsdale is mainly Filipino membership lodge. Raven, we are more really blue collar. I mean, people just, sometimes I'm the only guy in a suit.
Okay.
Now Azure, we are a little bit more like, I would say, city guys come from all over. Mm-hmm. And he's gonna kill me for forgetting his title. Joe Farrell, he's not just under the Grandmaster, the
Deputy Grandmaster.
Yeah, Deputy Grandmaster, thank you. So I go, not just because of him, but so we try to do some things and keep our name out there as a lodge, probably a little different than the other lodges. So everybody's a little different. That lodge will do events like axe throwing, go to hockey games. It's been a little while since we did that, but we try to do different activities that are outside of the lodge. Hinsdale does that. There's a lot of parties outside of the lodge, banquets, things like that. Raven, we do more things like chili cook-off.
Sure.
Right on. Every lodge kind of, falls into their own place. Our lodge, we're kind of like that with we do a lot of outside stuff. We're all going to shoot pool in a week or so here, a little bit over a week. We do an axe throwing event. We go to a baseball game.
Lux golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to call our lodge a work hard, play hard lodge, where we do a lot of focus on ritual, but then we also do a lot of focus on having fun. So we try to do both and find the balance between the two. Here, I got a really hard question for you. This one's going to really mess you up. So at Refreshment, you guys like to enjoy some lovely refreshments. If you had to assign drinks to each Masonic body, Blue Lodge, York Rite, Scottish Rite, or Shriners, what would they be?
What would I assign each appendant body and Blue Lodge? What would I assign them?
What would you assign their specialty drink? What do you think a drink would be that represents them?
Well, it'd probably be better what they think their drink would be than I think I'd give them.
The shrine should get a Long Island.
No, I would say that's more like that's more grotto.
Yeah, fair.
The shrine probably more, I would say, Manhattan type.
Yeah, I can see that. Scottish Rite's got to be Scotch.
No, the Scottish Rite, I think they would like the image of the martini glass.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
Class.
Yep.
But really, we are, cigars and brandy.
Yep. I think a Blue Lodge, cigars and brandy makes less sense. I think the York Rite would be wine.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd be the wine guys.
Blue Lodge, I mean, it really depends on the Blue Lodge, but really that's just, like the college jungle juice where you just throw everything in because everybody likes so different.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you could just do beer for Blue Lodge. I feel like that's
right.
at least where we are.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a whiskey guy. I haven't been drinking, but I definitely prefer whiskey. Why? Probably because I'm an idiot.
I'm a whiskey guy too, so I'm right there with you.
Or at least it makes me an idiot sometimes.
Right. Yeah. That's
I'm
very
never wrong
capable.
when I'm drinking it. That's for damn sure.
So, since we kind of brought up at Refreshment there, what was your reasoning for starting a Masonic podcast?
I want to say this again. Not like I'm repeating myself just because it's going to get out to more people. At the time, I was just really bored with podcasts, which is really strange because, like I said, I would get really deep into Mormonism, Christianity, everything. So I would listen to podcasts that would put most people to sleep. So when I started listening to Masonic podcasts, and I'm not going to name any names because against anybody, I started falling asleep. And I think maybe that might be because I had no clue what they're talking about. And I realized that. So I was like kind of bored. So I'm like, you know what? There's nothing like when I came in, I met everyone at a bar, just like they did when they first started the first Grand Lodge 1717.
Yeah, the Goose and Gridiron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was a jolly good old time and drinks had by all. So that's how it was for me. And signed a petition, came in, and that was that.
Right.
So that was my experience. I'm like, whoa. Maybe that's not everybody's experience, but that's the experience I had. I wanted to share that. So I wanted the ambiance of the bar. So that's why we started recording in a bar at first. Hey, we started having some drinks, and then I think by episode 1.5, hey, you got to stay sober so we can get through these episodes. I didn't want to be that
guy. Someone had to do it.
Somebody had to do it.
The designated podcaster.
It ended up being me. So that's pretty much why. Because I'm like, anybody can talk about the esoterics, make it sound good or misunderstanding, what, depending on the listener. But I wanted to show that, hey, we're just regular guys. We meet up, we've got this thing in common, the square and compass. What does it mean to you? I don't know. The same thing, kind of just like a drink. What does the drink in hand mean to you? I don't know. An icebreaker. So that's what the square and compass should mean or does mean to people. And that's kind of just what I wanted to show. It's not, I get a little worked up about it, but it's not this mysterious thing like, most guys have no idea what's going on with it. Guess what? I'm doing a podcast and absolutely no clue what it's really about.
Well, and that's the fun thing within Masonry is that everyone's Masonry is their own version of it, right? So, that's what's cool, and it's nice to show that, at its core, it is a bunch of men with shared values and in a shared hobby together, right? And so what their interests may be, how they express themselves within the craft and all that stuff is all necessarily unique. But when we try to say there's only one true experience of Masonry, it starts to get a little wonky almost immediately when it's not every part of everything resonates with every Mason in the same way. And so it's fun to show that all those people are still in the same room together, though, enjoying the craft in their own ways and getting the experience they want out of it, ideally,
Actually, I'd like to correct myself. I know I could be wrong. It doesn't happen often. Actually, I do know what Freemasonry is. One thing for sure it is, it's a gatherer of men.
Mm-hmm.
And, it doesn't matter. Like at Grand Lodge, we have everybody get together. You see the bikers. You see people you only see once a year. And then we split up, and I don't want to say there's classes, but, I guess there's classes. So where the senior and junior deacons are going to be, because it's because they got to go to this class. Then there's a past masters thing. And then there's the Lodge of Research. So you're going to get those that are into intellectuals and, esoteric. So everybody splits up, but we're all gathering in the same place. We have different ideas, but that's what it is, definitely for sure.
And at the end of the night, you'll all see each other at the pub. You'll all rejoin together in Refreshment. How would you describe to our listeners who have not tuned in to the At Refreshment podcast, how would you describe what the vibe of the podcast is and what you guys try to do with your podcast?
Wait, I just wanted something for your AI to get
It's fine. It'll auto-edit it.
Every time I go, I'm like, your AI is going to get rid of that.
Makes it sound good. He always knows what he's going to say when it's edited.
Definitely. I make myself sound like a genius sometimes. Or maybe not so much. I don't know. Ours is definitely just a regular experience. I mean, we're guys. We're having a couple drinks. Sometimes we're not always drinking, but we're just trying to show that we're just regular guys. Like most of the time, or not most of the time, the last couple of episodes we did were about AI. So everybody has that talk about AIs. Listen to us. Okay, it's just an episode. I mean, we're Freemasons that just happen to freak out about AI just like everybody else.
Right.
So let's just turn it into an episode. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Not everything has to be a interview like I did with Christopher Earnshaw. That's just like me being the geek, the nerd, whatever, that's like, oh man, I found this one answer. This sounds great. So I did all that, but there's only so much I want to do of that, or maybe I think that everyone else wants to listen.
Right. I think Andrew's catchphrase fits perfectly here to describe the vibe of At Refreshment. Dudes being bros, bros being dudes.
Boys being men.
I was just going to say, I did not answer your question at all. Sorry.
No, you're
how
great.
would I describe At Refreshment? Just regular guys that are Masons having a good time, having a couple beers.
The way I would describe At Refreshment is like you're getting to be a fly on the wall with Masons, hanging out with other Masons, just doing what Masons do best, just hanging out and talking about whatever they want to talk about, doing their thing, being guys.
It's like we're not doing anything nefarious. I know that's what people want to believe. It's yeah, right. We can't even agree on what kind of pizza we want.
Taking over the world, one pancake breakfast at a time.
Yeah, I do think some of these, like, especially like I enjoy a lot of those really educational Masonic podcasts as well. But it's so fun to just listen to like Masons being Masons, because like, I was talking the other day about how, like you were saying that life circumstances could have pulled you away from Lodge for a while you're working through stuff. And I think a lot of Masons have times in their life where they can't be as active as they would maybe like. So having podcasts that are just brothers hanging out and talking is like a way for them to still feel like they can connect with the fraternity when maybe they physically can't make it in the building at the time, I think that's something that's special about At Refreshment, like our podcast and a couple of others that are rolling around in the Masonic podcast space, that it gives people that kind of third space to kind of feel connected.
Right. You just get to sit down and have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't... Well, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
All right. Sometimes you don't want to... Unfortunately, you don't want to hear the ritual. It does start to lose its flavor after a little while, because it is the same thing over and over again. But you do want to hear your brethren talk. You do want to hear these ideas. So it's a good way to get that, or just get more of it, or just get it, period.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say? So, the At Refreshment podcast focuses on the, refreshment side of the craft.
We don't focus on anything.
In the high level.
I reject that question.
Being being an experienced refresher, what do you have any memorable experiences that come to mind from a Masonic gathering you've been in outside of Lodge?
Are you asking for a time in particular, or are you just...
Yeah, does anything cool come up that you were like, wow, this is...
That I could talk about?
Cool.
I don't know. Let's see. Well, I haven't done anything, like I said, in a little while. I think the last thing that I was really at was Grand Lodge. Everybody hangs out at Grand Lodge. Guys are having cigars and drinks in between the sessions. Usually the gathering starts the week of Grand Lodge, because I believe Eastern Star has their thing. So it's like a week-long thing, not that everybody's there, but it can start on like Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
And Grand Lodge has their meetings and their things that they do for their invitees and things like that. So I have gotten down there on a Wednesday a number of times, but usually it's Thursday night, because the meeting starts Friday, and then Saturday night. Those are the two nights where everybody is at. And those conversations and just laughing at each other, being complete idiots, I would say that would be it.
Those are some of my favorite experiences, too.
So I've been going to Grand Lodge since before I was a voting officer, because I was like, this is the most fun idea. It's people from all over the state. You meet here, you get to sit, and, I don't even... dislike the actual session, like listening to the whatever rules we're voting on. Like I enjoy looking at that. I like doing the work part, and I like going out and then meeting with all the people, talking about the day, what's been going on. And you were mentioning earlier, there's people that I look forward to seeing each year that I only see once a year at Grand Lodge, and I go, there he is, there's my boy. And then you know, like, let's go do something, and it's like a little reunion. It's great. I can't believe you guys last a whole week. Ours goes from
like I said, it's not a programmed week. The programmed day is the Thursday night, because there's hospitality things here and there. It used to be a little different. If the rumors are correct, we're going back to a place we used to be after this year. So, okay, like the Scottish Rite used to rent out like a bar, pool area for their hospitality on like a Thursday night. And like I said, that week, and I could be completely wrong, things could have changed. I believe the Eastern Star, they would have their session on like that Monday or Tuesday, which is not, you know, part of the Grand Lodge thing. You don't have to be there. So they're there, and the Grand Lodge guys are there to do their stuff before the actual meeting. So you can go down there if you want. I mean, you're free to, but you're not going to get like the discounted room before Thursday night.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
I think ours runs from
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday night, the hospitality starts, then all-day session on Friday, and then half-day on Saturday, and then we're done.
So it's fun though in the way that like you like the fellowship that happens out around the meeting and stuff is just like, you know, it's special. Like you have people coming in from all over, and like you get to just, you know, you meet so many interesting people that you might never met, and everyone wants to chat with everybody to a certain extent. So you end up chatting people up. At our last annual communication, we set up a table and we're doing like rapid fire interviews. So that even made it better because I got like icebreakers with like, I don't know, 50 people or however many we did.
We did quite a few.
And so then you would, you know, have them on for a quick 5-minute interview. Then you'd see them around later and be like, oh, what's going on? Like, you know, you mentioned something interesting, and, you know, away you go.
See, I would do that, but I'm just afraid to everybody, oh, it's a refreshment, and everyone dropping F-bombs. Like, all right, you know.
What do you think, from your opinion, do you think modern Freemasonry needs to stay relevant with the new generations of kiddos coming around these days?
I had an epiphany you were going to ask me some sort of question. Does this have anything to do with one of those things that I posted?
Is memes the answer?
Memes. We need more memes in Freemasonry.
Memes.
Yeah, is it, or one of the like questions, because probably last year I was posting like different ideas, questions and stuff, and there was something, you know, just Freemasonry needed it to be updated, or, you know, something, and that's similar to your question. So, my gosh, is he going to ask me about this? So, I don't know. According to everybody that contacted me about the one I'm talking about, no, and I'm an idiot for even thinking so.
I always like to think Masonry has always been a melting pot between tradition and the modern era, so it's a bridge. So I think that we need to find a way to be modern, but also, you know, maintain our tradition, right? And so, like, to be modern, it means, like, one, update your tech. You know, social media is a good one. You guys do a lot of fun social media stuff with your podcast, where it you know, it adds life to the organization instead of just being like, you know, it keeps relevance, keeps you in the public's eye. And like you were saying, like your lodges are doing axe throwing and the events that younger generations would enjoy doing, I think is huge too.
Right. Like mine was more around ritual. Now, anybody can do anything outside of the lodge. It's, you know, no big deal. That's, I guess, why we have appended bodies. So that's where my mind went. I don't know if you want me to go down that road or not.
I mean, we can talk about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I like that the ritual doesn't change. I like the consistency that it's like it's the connecting point to that tradition personally. But, you know, every Mason's entitled to, you know, think their own opinions on those things.
Well, I'm sure things have changed because we've all adopted our ritual from somewhere else. And their ritual has changed from what we have. Like when I had the interview with Christopher Earnshaw, I assume that England over there, their ritual would be, you know, the ritual. This is the ritual. You know, it's pristine, it's gold, you know, it's inerrant, you know, like a Bible. I was told, no, yours is probably better. Like, what? I'm like, oh, well, how does that happen? So, no, seriously, how does that happen? Oh, I'll tell you how that happens. They adapted it to their needs in whatever region we needed it here in the States. And that's why we have 3 and 4 letter and why everybody does things different. Because, like, oh, we don't want to do this. We don't want to hold rods. Rods? What are those?
Right.
So everybody did something different to accommodate their membership.
So it's interesting, too, when you look at the history of the ritual. In the States, we're usually using some variation of the Preston Webb ritual. Is during the foundations of Masonry, there were like a handful of rituals floating around, and they were all considered like, the course like lessons very much similar, but how they cooked that turkey or whatever was a little different to what symbols resonated with them. But yeah, there is the misconception that there was one agreed upon ritual and we all adapted from it, when there was actually like 7 or more, because ritual writing used to be like a popular hobby for rich people. They were like, I got a great idea. And so, you had, countless versions, and then some would just not go anywhere where people are like, that's lame. And others would, gain influence and traction. And then inevitably, once areas started to settle in, like, this is the one that we want to be using, that's kind of how we got to this point, too. Whether that be in England, the emulation stuff, and the various others, they're different authors, but they're all very... Like, the way they do it's different, but, like, if you look at the core, I mean, they have different working tools sometimes and stuff like that. Right. It's still... You can still go, yeah, this is still, like, the same in heart. It's just different in how it's presented, which is kind of cool. Yeah. It makes travel more fun.
Yeah. Well, we use the V6 Mustang, Well, over there we use the V8. Well, we got a Cobra over here. I mean, everybody uses something different.
Yep.
That's why I like going down to that Tennessee cave degree so much, is because you always get to see different people's work.
I want to go, and when is it?
It's usually the 3rd Saturday in August, I believe. Let me check my calendar. I'm not going to be this year because I'm going to Sturgis instead. But yeah, I believe it's usually the 3rd Saturday in August. So, yep, that would be correct.
The 23rd, okay.
Yeah, I won't be down there this year, but then I'll be down there for 3 years in a row after that.
Cool. You have any questions you want to ask while he's looking at the calendar?
Yeah, you know what? Now that my leg is working a little bit better, I wonder if I can brave that.
This is a good test run for your leg to see if you can get into a cave.
Well, yeah, I don't know how bad I want to, or how much I want to test that. Sometimes I push it a little too much, but something to think about.
So, with going back to the whole podcast thing with at Refreshment, how did you approach the other guys about doing it, or how did you decide that you were going to have so many people on it, or did that just kind of naturally end up happening?
Well, I just didn't want to do it myself was one reason. Because I'm not like, hey, look at me, this is all about me. If it was, then I wouldn't have done video. Mm-hmm. I think about doing video shorts and stuff like that, and I do it. I'm like, man, I look like a. But I had no problem doing the skit. I don't know if you've seen the Benny Hill skit thing that we did. I had no problem doing that. I've got no problem making an ass of myself, but for whatever reason, doing this in front of the camera, it just seems kind of like, what I hear in my head is Mick Jagger in what's the song? I see the guy on TV tell me how white my shirts can be. Let me tell you about Masonry, brother. I don't want to
Yep.
And I'm like, well, if I'm not there, the show must go on. Other personalities. I like bouncing ideas off people. Kind of, I guess, like the whiteboard effect. You write it on, you get, conflict breeds ideas, and it's totally true.
Right.
Well, sometimes we're not really fighting about ideas, but we're definitely fighting to, get a word in. No, shut up. Right. I know people don't like that, but that's truly, that's the real thing. When you're at the bar talking to guys, no, shut up. No. You're talking over them to get the word in.
Right. Yep. Right. No, that is actually one of my.
Let it go, but yeah.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite parts about listening to you guys.
That's why I wanted personalities, because it's not. it's not Wes's review time at the bar. So
Right.
I've always found it's more fun doing it as a group too, because if I was just doing a solo podcast, and I've done a couple of episodes where it's just me doing like a special, like a Christmas special or whatever, and it is not as fun. And you're like, it's just me talking to a microphone. It's more fun to be like, you want the podcast to be enjoyable to do, and then be able to share something that you enjoyed, doing at the same time. So it's not like miserable, or else you'd be like, this sucks.
yeah, it should be fun. I mean, okay. Any other thing at Refreshment, I didn't want it to be like the lodge ambiance. Like, hey, we're, how you're supposed to talk in lodge. They're talking blah blah blah.
Right.
Puts everyone to sleep. Laugh, have a good time. That's what I wanted. I mean, education stuff is great. We're going to try and educate you. Probably most of the time we're de-educating you with the things we're saying. But we're having a good time because I just saw something on Facebook. You're like, what sucks? The good thing about growing up in the 90s is that if there was a story, you just actually believed it. And I can't remember what story it was. And then you believed it for like forever until you found out about the internet. And you're like, that wasn't true. But there was no way you can prove it. Right. And your little tribe of people, that story was true. I know it was. And it's about somebody you have no clue.
My friend Billy said his dad's brother's barber said this was true, so it has to be true.
It has to be true.
Yeah.
I have plenty of examples of that. Like,
was his name Floyd?
Fleet Farm up here. There's Fleet Farm and there's Farm and Fleet, right? And the story always was. Well, Piggly Wigglies are around, but they're few and far between. It's more so like Pick and Save and Meyer now for grocery stores. But the story always was about Farm and Fleet Farm is that it was two brothers that had originally owned it and then separated. So the one that left started Farm and Fleet because his brother still had Fleet Farm, and apparently that's not true at all.
I just found that out now because I thought that was true.
Yeah, no, not true at all. Sorry, Andrew.
The story about Blaine isn't true? Oh, man.
Sorry to break your heart.
That's fine.
Yeah, all the BS, all the...
I do miss those days,
stories.
though. I miss those days where, there wasn't fact checking. There was no Google for us to just go, really? You heard that? Let me see if it's true. No, you just had to either go, that's bullshit, or, believe it,
Or you had to get so mad that you go home and grab an encyclopedia from your encyclopedia thing. I'm going to show these guys next time I see them. I'm going to flip through this and get to the bottom.
You only knew you won the argument if the other kids were going, ooh, oh, yeah.
It was so much simpler then.
Simple times. Simple times.
Everything's far too complex now.
Cool. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? We're hitting about the 50-minute mark, so we're in the ballpark.
I got nothing in my plate currently.
Wes, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Wes, are you a past master?
Yes, I am. Oh, you want? Yeah.
There you go, Andrew.
That's true. We traditionally end the question of...
well, I'm past everything.
Yeah.
Except the Scottish Rite and the Shrine. And Grotto. I'm not the monarch or anything in Grotto either.
What advice would you have for an incoming worshipful master to help them prepare for being in the East? What's your advice to someone coming into the chair as a past master?
Don't do it.
That's solid advice.
Looking forward to next year.
My beard got a lot more gray during that year.
Well, let's see. You got maybe two answers, and we'll try to answer it in the same way. If you are a master and you haven't planned your year by the time you're junior warden, take the time now to tell your junior warden to start planning his year. Because, as the worshipful master may have just found out, some guys moved away. One guy you thought that was going to commit cannot commit anymore. One, maybe two guys that said they would commit. Now you got to change them out of their appointed chair and go from there. So don't be surprised when you're master, and you shouldn't be. So if you're a past master and you're not telling the junior warden or the senior warden, if nobody's told anybody, that should be your job. That was told to me by Herb Lindbergh when I was junior warden, and that was probably some of the best advice I have ever gotten, and I have passed that along.
That is solid advice.
Yeah, I need to do more planning as senior warden.
Yeah, you do really need to get on the ball with that.
It's luckily
warn your brother of approaching danger. Yeah, that's what it is, approaching danger. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, the good thing is that, like, we have such a good foundation here that I'm really just building off of what has already been passed down. So there's that aspect that's nice. But yeah, I've been looking at it since I was before junior warden. I had I think it was maybe you who has the little notes app in his phone that since he joined the officers line, he would put in ideas like, oh, I'm going to save this idea and build a list so that when you get into planning, you're not starting at square one, that you're already recording some ideas. But yeah, I think that's great advice. We need to start to tell the junior warden.
I can give you 2 years of past master advice, and you learn more being secretary too. It's a completely different world. One thing, definitely advice for any incoming worshipful master and even past masters: do not get past master-itis. In other words, don't serve as worshipful master and then leave next year.
Right.
I don't know how many masters do that. I understand that it happens and it's going to happen, but try to eliminate that.
Yeah.
Right? Some guys do need a couple of years off, and give them a couple of years off, and some of them will come back. But try not to get past master-itis.
So
it's hard.
Can you give me more information on what past master-itis is? I think I get what you're saying, but elaborate, please.
If you already served or you are serving as worshipful master right now, and you're like, I ain't coming back after this. Don't do that. That's past master-itis when you don't show up. Because you're past master. I don't have to show up.
Right.
I've already done it.
So you're saying stay around, like actually still be a resource and a member of your lodge who's active. Don't disappear and become inactive right after you're released from your torment.
Right. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. You're still needed. A lot of guys are going to be looking for you to give them knowledge, especially depending on how much camaraderie, how well you got along with those guys at lodge. And if you go, that's a big bullet to them, big bullet to any lodge. So don't get that sickness. Don't get past master-itis. Oh, I already did everything. I don't need to come.
Yeah, and it's hard because I've seen that happen quite a bit too. And I understand, like, same thing, like when I'm out of the East, I plan on taking like a year or two to like step back and just be a counselor, like just be a guy on the sidelines, because I think you earn that, right? Not Matt. Matt just goes right back in. But so but at the same time, like some of my favorite people in lodge, like Art and Tom Dehoney, one's a past master, one's just a brother, but they're at every single meeting except for when they're snowbirding away.
Right. Well, and Tom was a past master 30 years ago and is still like one of the most regular attenders of lodge. So.
Well, and if a past master who's been, for 7 years so instrumental in that lodge's culture just disappears, it changes the vibe so drastically in like a blink of an eye that it's like jarring. Where you're like, where are my guys? And you're like, and yeah, I think that happens too much for sure.
No, I agree. But yeah, I went the opposite direction.
He's a glutton for punishment.
I am.
Yeah, it is.
I walked down the dais 3 steps and sat right back down in the senior deacon's chair.
So before we go, I'll probably talk your ear off a little bit more. So now I got some question for you guys, and I don't know if you want to keep it in the podcast or not. So your blood types? No.
Discard already knows all that stuff. Don't worry.
What? You guys are Wisconsin, correct?
Yep.
Way up north, or where are you guys out of?
We're in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee. Okay, that's not too bad. Are you guys the only podcast in Wisconsin?
No. So our Grand Lodge Education Committee has but it's more of a straight education podcast. So that one's called Further Light.
Yep. And they do, they have the Further Light podcast. But other than that, we're the only other Wisconsin one that I'm aware of, at least.
Okay. All right. Have you guys hooked up with that other Masonic podcast?
Yeah, I met those guys on TikTok a while back, and then, yeah, I've been on their show. We're going to eventually have, Andrew's going to be on their show, and we're planning on having him on ours. And then we know the Third Degree Masonic podcast guys out of Indiana. Or no, they're Ohio. They're out of Ohio.
They're Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just started contacting me.
Yeah, they're pretty cool guys.
They're fun.
And then Jim Hall, we had him on recently.
Yep.
From Traveling Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, we've been, as we entered into season 2 of our podcast, we've been trying to do a lot more cross-pollination with other Masonic podcasters, not only because it's good to like cross-pollinate listeners, it's also just fun talking to other podcasters because with a guest, you never know how comfortable they're going to be on a microphone. But with a podcaster, you're like, they'll be okay. Like, they know how to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I tell myself I'll be okay, put it that way.
It's
I mean, I always screw up the introduction for At Refreshment. I'm like,
It's fun to hook up with other Masonic podcasts though too, just because like I feel like we have a really like fun community building around Masonic podcasting where like Andrew always jokes that it's like having another appendant body, but it really kind of is. You know, it takes up a significant amount of time to do this. Yeah. And I like the fact that we're all open to, you know, we're not competing with each other. We're all trying to do this and, you know, talk about Masonry and just have a good time and, you know, are now starting to support each other and everything else. I think it's been really fun.
And make friends with people doing the same stupid thing you decided to do.
Yeah, the same stupid thing, yeah.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything different than anybody else. I mean, we're just, you know, we're adding alcohol into the mix. Or sometimes we are, sometimes, most of the time we are. Sometimes we're not.
Right.
I mean, really, that's it. And, you know, we're pretty loose with our language, so it might separate us from some podcasts. I mean, obviously, so, but, you know, that's just us. And I don't know how else to do it.
Yeah, you got to be able to express yourself.
Right, yeah. I mean, you don't want it to be fake, right? Like, you should be genuine. That's what will draw people into your podcast, right? Like, if you're putting on a face and this act and trying to be somebody else, people are going to be like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that garbage.
Yeah, I never wanted to be like that. I mean, we are who we are, and, you know, I guess I wanted a little bit brighter personalities, guys that weren't afraid to get loud.
Right, right.
So I'm like, I'm not. I don't care. I mean, I'm just loud. I try not to be, but I am just loud.
Same.
So, yeah. I just wanted that same kind of personality, and you know, found it in.
No, and it's worked
these guys now
really well for you guys. You guys have a great show. I truly do enjoy listening to it. So.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wish we can get more content out. Like I said before we started recording, I believe now we're probably only going to be recording every 5th Sunday. So that's only 4 recordings a year, which is not much. Life has just changed for not just me, but for all the guys. I mean, everyone's going to have a baby. Marty and Stephanie are expecting. So that's, you know, adding to the At Refreshment family. And that will take Marty away from some things. Marty is in the Grand Line for the Grand Chapter of the Royal Arch Masons of Illinois. So his time is taken up with that. Once again, Mark is running for Grand Captain of the Guard for Grottos International. And Yoshi is still, his baby, I think, is like 3 now.
You know what's funny is I actually met Yoshi randomly.
Yes, he told us
at
about
the Milwaukee
that. Yeah,
County
I'm like,
Zoo.
oh, that's funny. I'm like, yeah, pretpretty funny. It's, you know, it's weird when you run into somebody like, hey, are you? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because you're caught off guard. Not that, you know, everybody's running up to us all the time. You know, when it happens, you're like, oh, you're kind of taken off guard. You know, people know what you look like. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I happen to have a square and compass hat on, and he said something to me, and then we bumped into each other again, and I was like, and then we actually did like an introduction, and as soon as he said his name, I was like, wait, like At Refreshment?
Yeah. So my buddy Steve DeVries, he went down to DC for some Royal Arch stuff, and he had an At Refreshment. He was wearing At Refreshment. He's like, oh, you know how many people, you know, knew about you? I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. I didn't realize, you know, how many people, because I only go off of views. You know, I don't know how many people come across the meme. I mean, I do get some charts, but I'm like, that really doesn't tell me, you know, who saw it or where they saw it. I have
Right.
no idea, because he's like, oh, guys were flying in from England, a couple guys from Africa, so I'm like, I have no idea who told him what, and I don't expect it to be like half the crowd. Is probably like maybe 5-6 people he ran into.
Right.
That said something. Now, if everybody else, if a lot of people recognize it and didn't say something, I don't know, but.
I mean, you never know, too. Like, so, like, the way our server does, I can see what cities have been listening and locations.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm just blown away sometimes being like, why is this Ukrainian listening to my podcast in a war zone right now or something? You know what I mean?
Well,
You're
there's
like,
also VPNs, which throw a whole mix in there, because it could be somebody sitting 2 doors down from your house running a VPN that says they're in Ukraine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
too.
there's enough spread out that I don't think as many people are using VPNs like when listening to stuff as you think.
I know, but I'm just saying that's
I
I don't know. I just put it out there, and I, hope for the best. I should know more than I know, but I don't. I mean, there's always somebody from India or something trying to help me with my SEO, and I know what they're getting at, but I don't want to pay them for it, and I don't want to give them access to the channel. I just
don't do that.
Right,
It's a dumb idea.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
And the thing is if I want to do it, I'll find somebody, but I still don't know if I want to pay somebody to do that, because I don't know how often it needs to be done. It's probably something simple that only needs to be done once. But, I have no idea. I'm not looking for fake views or anything. I just want it to hopefully be available to more people. And if, it is, great. And if people don't watch it, well, I fucking suck. What do you want me to say? So, but, at least I have that opportunity to get it out to more people, is the way I see it.
I think Masonic podcasting is it's a niche within a niche, right? So it not only requires that you have a bunch of Masons that listen to podcasts, and then you're already picking from a small number there, and it's hit or miss. I mean, it's definitely more of the, I would say, 55 and under crowd that's going to be listening to podcasts. So
To be fair, what is fun about being a podcaster? I have definitely been a lot of older members' first podcast they've ever downloaded. They come up with their phone like, how do I listen to this? And I'm like, here you go. And so like we can be the intro to Masons and listening to podcasts for a lot of members who might be like, I never really had interest, but I heard you guys, talking about it. Now I want to listen to a podcast. And you're like, all right, yes, you grew up on radio. This should be your jam.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Usually if they come across ours, they complain about it. I've heard number of complaints. I guess that's our claim to fame, is we've gotten complaints in the past. Not lately. I've been pretty good with the language, cleaning it up for the most part.
Well, and you guys have been doing like those car casts and stuff, which gives a different atmosphere to it. So
yeah, it's kind of nice because I don't get to hear my voice over and over again. God, that's the one thing about editing, over and over again.
Oh yeah, I know. I live with that.
That's why Andrew's in charge of the editing, and I stay far away from it.
Oh yeah.
But the car cast things, the guys like doing them. Definitely on the video side, we don't get the views for those. And lately, I don't know if it's because I've been inactive with posting a lot on YouTube, but we haven't been getting the usual views we have per episode. But you never know. I don't understand the algorithm. I don't know if the algorithm understands the algorithm.
Yeah.
I'm just that big of an idiot, but which is probably most likely
I don't
the case.
dive that deep into any of that stuff, and we put them up on YouTube. But
it auto posts. I don't even look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Some are obviously not every episode is going to be a big hit. Some of our episodes are better than others.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And usually, that's just the way it goes. Not every episode is going to be gold.
I'm more of a listener than a watcher when it comes to podcasts. Even if there's a video option available, I'm usually just listening to the audio because I do it while I work, because I work by myself. So, I'm driving around in a truck and pulling orders all day and throwing orders up on shelves. So I just have an earbud in and let them run all day.
Yeah, that's what Brock does. I know he's the podcast listener. If he finds something, he'll toss it out to us and we'll start listening. I tried to listen, but for the most part I don't, just because I don't want to take ideas from anybody. I mean, obviously, eventually, we're gonna all spill over.
Right.
But I'm not like trying to do like, hey, they just had this guy on. Maybe we should get him on.
Right.
You know, I understand that happens, but once you hear the guy in an interview once, do you really need to hear him 3 more times throughout the year?
Right.
I mean, what's nice too with listening.
That's not an offense to anybody. Yeah. That's just me and how I feel about it. Because, all right, I saw you on Joe Rogan. Great. Chances are I'm not going to watch you on something else again. Or if I saw you, Tucker Carlson, or if I saw you on, name another podcast. I'm just throwing names up there.
Yeah, really Theo Vaughn's, anybody's, yeah.
How many times do you really need to hear them answer the same questions?
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, the key is to, like, I listen to a lot of Masonic podcasts. Not as many as I used to, because I've been getting into audiobooks too much. But, like, it's nice because, like, also when I'm listening, like, if somebody talked about a topic on theirs and I'm releasing one the same week on the same topic, I might just space it and be like, oh, well, I'll just bump it next week so that you can have, like, a break between it, because I also don't assume that all my listeners listen to every podcast either.
Right.
So I don't really get that concerned about like stealing ideas, because I don't really listen with the intent of finding my own content. I just listen, and then like day before I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? And then we just figure something out,
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't listen with the intent to steal. I mean, if I listen, but I just don't want to, hey, just, maybe we can work something with that. I mean, we all do it. I mean, it's
Masonry. There's a limited amount of things to talk about.
I mean, geez. Yeah, there is one. Like, how many people are going to do like on Christianity? I mean, how deep is that subject? But eventually you're going to cross paths with, that wasn't a pun, with everyone about a subject.
But the difference is
talking about
the same thing. Yep. And the thing is that it doesn't get stale because, every person's unique and every podcast is unique and their takes are unique. And so like, that's what I enjoy, is like you get to hear different perspectives and ideas about similar topics. And it's like, that's what makes it interesting, or else you would just be listening to the same take every time. But a lot of Masons have very interesting takes on whatever it might be.
Right.
For sure.
Different ideas. I mean, sometimes, we talk about things that aren't Masonic. It happens, sorry, because sometimes you're at lodge, you're talking about something, and then somebody's like, oh, yeah, remember, because it was kind of like that, and you guys go off into this thing that wasn't Masonry, and the master's got to gavel you. You're like, hey, we got to,
Yep.
And that's, we're guys, everybody has lives outside of Masonry.
Mm-hmm. So. Cool. Wes, do you have any other questions for us before we cut these listeners loose?
No. I mean, hopefully I covered everything you wanted to ask.
It was a good time.
We don't really have a strict agenda. We just want to talk.
We don't script anything, just like you guys. We just wherever it's going to go is where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's
cool.
How it works with us too.
Well, thank you, Wes, so much for coming on and joining us. You can, and to our listeners, if you're interested in the Refreshment podcast, you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check them out on Facebook. The memes are fire. Make sure you follow them on YouTube and all that good stuff. I'll put a link in the show notes as well for anyone interested. And a reminder to our listeners, always check us out on our social medias as well. You can find us on most platforms. And thanks for tuning in.
Have a good day, everybody. Thanks, Wes.